Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Aaron. It's about 1:20 a.m. Just a couple thoughts I had, in no particular order. You know, being sick is really difficult on so many levels, and I really appreciate this platform and YouTube, and a lot of you guys are commenting, and I really appreciate it. It's really cool. It sucks that we're all going through a lot of really challenging stuff, but nonetheless, it's really awesome that we can all kind of share what's going on with us. There's a guy I follow on social media, and he's done a lot of ayahuasca journeys. He's has like a CEO of a big company, kind of like a masculine spiritual guy who meditates, and I don't know. He kind of reminds me of my old self before I got sick. So it's funny how you can see parts of yourself that you're like, oh, I was behaving kind of like that, a little bit like a douchebag, or a little bit like a whatever, and you can only really see it once you're out of it. But he said today he said that he's consciously stopping having sex, because he realizes that ever since he was a teenager, he's used that's been one of his biggest kind of ways to get validation from other people. And he kind of wants to see how much energy and he'll have once he, stops using that as like a mechanism to get validation and to feel good about himself and all that kind of stuff. And it's all good information. I mean, it's cool what he's doing. But I can't help but think this guy is super healthy. He's a mega athlete, probably in his late 30s. So all of his spiritual work is always, and this is my point, all of his quote spiritual work is always very deliberate and conscious. And it's coming from a place of, I'm incredibly healthy, my brain is working incredibly well, and this is an option I'm choosing. I'm on the warrior path. I'm on the path of greatness. It's like all this, and I can judge it because that used to be me to a large extent. But it's all coming from this insanely lucky and privileged place that he has no idea how lucky he is. He has no idea that in a moment, just like many of us, maybe you watching this, who were going through health shit, his entire life can be turned upside down, and then it becomes not a conscious I'm a spiritual guy and I'm going to practice this thing that I think will help bring more power and more alignment into my life, and I'm going to be more integrated. And it's like it becomes you're forced into this shit. You're forced into these experiences of I'm no longer the person I used to be. It's like and it's not like you can decide to stop it. It's not like you can decide to be like, well, that was a fun experiment, I'm going to stop that now. It's like, dude, like for myself, my awareness is getting so kind of claustrophobic. It's like my vision and my feelings are getting so dull and so confused that it's not something that I wish I could snap out of it, because it's one thing to practice what it feels like to let go of your identity and to feel like your identity is dissolving around you, from your physical body to your mental body to your ability to, have all these parts of your identity that you thought were you. It's one thing to do that from a place of health and abundance and feeling really great. It's another thing to do that when it feels like you're being dragged behind, a jet ski, and you're just being smacked on the water, and you can't tell the jet ski to stop, and you don't know how long it's going to go, and you, in your brain, you're aware that things can get infinitely worse, and that's really scary. And kind of get off topic, that's a thought that when I used to do marijuana, it used to put me in a really, really bad place, because I would get really, really paranoid. Not paranoid, I would have panic attacks. and I can kind of feel it now coming on, where how I'm feeling, the decline of my brain, not my body. You know, if my body, if I couldn't walk and I was in a wheelchair, but I still had my brain, I could live. I could be okay. You know, it would suck, but it's nothing like when your thoughts and your brain starts to go, and you're just waiting for the day that your unconscious mind decides that you can't tie your shoes anymore. And I know some of you have commented like you can't tie your shoes, and I unfortunately I'm beginning to understand how that can manifest, because I'm just losing some of that kind of automatic motor skills that you just don't think about. But anyway, what was I saying? I totally forgot what I was saying. Shoot. Yeah, infinitely worse. So that's terrifying to think about, and I think about that sometimes, especially when like your vision or your thinking and your just feeling of yourself gets less and less and less, and it gets more and more blurry and confusing, and you don't really know where you are, and you just feel just so many weird sensations. It's just a horrible, horrible feeling. It's like the only thing I could describe it to, I guess, is if you did a really bad trip, some psychedelic trip, and then you mix that with intense sleeping pills, and you're just like really not here. But how far I've gone in the last 6-7 years, and if this continues and it escalates and it speeds up, which it has been, it is absolutely terrifying to think where I could be in 10-20 years. It's it's one of these horrendous thoughts of, I can see how this can just get incrementally worse until I can no longer. I mean, it's really like sliding into Alzheimer's or dementia. It's like I can see how this can just keep getting worse. Super scary. It's one of the scary. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure there are things that are scarier, but not many. This is up there, and most people will never really experience this unless maybe it's the last few years of their life, and they're 80 or 85, and it's this scary decline. And I mean, I know there's a lot, and the problem is people that are going through things like this, we don't have the energy or the capacity to like communicate it well, and that's the catch-22 is like when you're experiencing this mental decline and disillusion. I don't even know the words. You can't talk about it, and it's like the people who have, like myself, the people who have these profound realizations or experiences of like your identity is going from a personality standpoint to a I'm a good friend, I'm a good listener, I have a high IQ, all of these, I'm athletic, all of these things from, the kind of the obvious, like I'm no longer as athletic and strong as I once was or coordinated, to I can no longer comprehend people's conversations and listen and be a good person, and it's like and have empathy and all. I can't empathize with people anymore. Like those are like insane lessons that I used to kind of like this guy who I'm talking about, who's no longer having sex, to kind of try it out. I used to be like I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try out all these spiritual things. I'm going to try out what it's like to, it's like, that's cool, but man, is there a difference when you have no choice, and when you're just, and that, because people only really want to hear when someone's out of the woods. And that's another, I'm getting really off topic because it's fucking late and I'm not doing well. Like, people, I know there's some people that listen to this, and thanks, dude. I mean, if you're listening, I think it's really awesome, but more people need to hear what we're going through, but in a way that I don't know if I'd want to hear myself. If I was 10 years ago, I was fucking flying high. I was the healthiest guy in the world, and I wouldn't have wanted to listen to me. Why would I want to listen to me talk about this? So, but it's like, this is the stuff that people should listen to, or when they're not doing bad. It's like when you're still healthy, you should be understanding these concepts of, everything you think you are is literally going to be taken away from you eventually. And, maybe you'll live until your last day with all of your capacities. Obviously, you're not going to be physically as strong, but maybe your mind's going to be there until your very last breath. I mean, if that is, then you've really lucked out in a lot of ways. Lucky in some sense, you've really escaped a lot of suffering in this lifetime. But God, is there a lot of suffering on this planet? I mean, it's like, I was talking to a friend today, and I said, how amazing would it be? And I know this is not an original thought. How amazing would it be, which I don't think will ever happen, eventually, if there's a way for one person to completely understand and feel what it's like to be somebody else. Completely. That'll never happen, ever. I mean, maybe when two people do a psychedelic journey together, I'm sure people have had that experience where they think that they've completely become and understood someone else's life and what it's like to live in their body and their mind and their psyche and their past and their future, and like what it's like to embody somebody else fully. But science is never going to get us there. But man, what would I do? I mean, how incredible would that be? To be completely understood and to completely understand somebody else. I mean, that has to be the most incredible thing if that were ever to come about. And because so many of us, myself included, it's not all we want. We want to feel good again. We want to feel like we have our brain and our body and we can fucking do shit again. But how amazing would it be just to have that ability for somebody else to totally understand beyond words, because words don't do it. I can't put into words how my brain feels. I can't put into words how shitty I feel physically. Like even right now, like I have a really bad, my stomach, my gut is a disaster. It's like so from like the basics of like I feel really sick physically to like I don't feel like myself again. I don't feel like I can't even sense where like my body is. I know I have a body, but I don't really quite know what's going on down there. It's like, it's so weird, man. It's like so trippy. And I guess, and I know I'm yapping a lot, so this is what I do. We're the ones who have the important stories to tell other people because we're living from an experience and a perspective. We're living the shit. Like we're living it. Like we're experiencing it. We're not doing this as a party trick to be like, hey, look how cool I am. I'm not having sex for a while and I'm going to, we're not doing some shit just to, no pun intended, but like mentally masturbate over these ideas and concepts. We're living things. Like we're living it. And sorry, my stomach really hurts right now. Oh God. Like and I know I'm missing all these things I wanted to talk about. But it's one, I'll just finish it on this. Like it's one thing to like, okay, I've lost my sex drive. If someone was like, oh, okay, I'm a paraplegic. Or I've slowly lost, like someone who has Parkinson's, like I've slowly lost my motor functions. And I have lost my ability to, have sex and to have a sex drive. And I'm really tired. This. But if they still have their brain, if they still have their ability to be themselves, and that self line, that self has continued, and there hasn't been a break in that identity self. There's been little tweaks and little like moments of growth or moments of expansion, which are natural, but there hasn't been a stop. There hasn't been like a slash through it where it's like, fuck, who am I? Like this is, if you still feel like you can definitely cope. And you can definitely, I don't know how to describe it. You can think about things the same. Like you can still, it's just so much easier because you're still you. You still have the ability to understand what's going on and to communicate to yourself, and your thoughts are still familiar to yourself. Your thoughts still make sense to you. Your brain still can articulate and conceptualize and it understands things because you've had that same brain for your entire life. You've had that same ability to put things together and understand things and, put things in there kind of, if there's a map, you know where things go, things belong, and you feel this comfort with yourself. I don't know how to describe it. But when that starts to go, like I have a ton of Alzheimer's symptoms, I hate that word, and dementia. I mean, God, like I have a lot of symptoms. And I'm sure if I don't get better, I have been declining as if I have that. I mean, I don't have lesions on the brain. I don't have classic Alzheimer's, but I definitely have, the symptoms of it. I forgot what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, but when that goes, when that continuity of self goes, that is the hardest thing, because that's when you can't make sense of anything anymore. Everything's a big blurry fog. I feel like sometimes, and more, and it reminds me of, when you may be like this if you're really sick too. Like you see older people, it's classically older people, 70s, 80s, 90s, sick in a wheelchair, or even just in a nursing home, and they're sitting in their chair and they're just staring off into space for hours, or they're watching TV and they're just staring at the TV. And there's just nothing there. Like, and when you're younger, when you're healthy, you don't really understand what's going on there. Like where are they? What's wrong with them? Like what? It doesn't really make sense. Like I remember for me, like I never really thought about it. I was like, oh, they're old. I don't know, it's whatever. Like, because I was living in a reality where like that didn't exist. But now I get it. I mean, maybe they have a full thought. They're thinking in their head. They're having conversations with themselves, or there's nothing going on. It's just kind of blank. I think it's mostly blank. It's just they're not having any thoughts, and they're just kind of existing, and that's terrifying. It's incredibly terrifying, and I know I said that would be my last point, and if you're watching this, thanks, appreciate it. I mean, I'm half doing this I'm mostly doing this for me because I like recording myself. I think it's interesting, or I don't know if it's interesting. It's just, I don't know, like watching myself over time, and I've definitely been making videos for many years, so that's terrifying to watch some of my older videos where I was a lot more coherent and cognizant, or I can't even think of the right word. Coherent is a good word. And then watching myself now try to articulate kind of depth and thoughts. It's like, fuck, I don't even feel like that guy anymore. I don't have access to even what I had 3 years ago. It's not the same. I can't feel things. My intuition is not there. My ability to like make sense of complex ideas and it's just not there. All right, guys. It's almost 20 minutes long. I will upload this now, and let me know what you think. If you feel like saying anything, and if one person watches this and that's what happens, that's cool. If more people watch it, that's cool. And if you have any ideas, let me know. If you have any ideas right now, as of this video, I'd really like to find a place that is 100%, I know is 1000% mold free, just to see if that is indeed, if I am being kind of poisoned by my environment here, which is very difficult to know. So if you have a place in the United States that isn't in winter, or I don't know, if you have any thoughts there of like a very clean place to live for maybe a month or 2 or 3, just to test it out. I don't have any energy to go camping. I don't drive, so that's super overwhelming. Unless I had somebody with me, I need somebody with me regardless of what I do. So if you have any thoughts like that, let me know, because I'm just want to see if that is an issue going on with me. But it's kind of impossible to know. Even if you test your house with like an ERMI or a Hertz-Me, you do the swab test and you see what's going on in the dust. Some people are still sick in a perfectly clean house, so it's very impossible to know. Anyway, that's kind of on my mind right now as of this video. If you have any, I'll pay for it. If you have any clean housing that you've done the testing on, that is super clean, ideally low EMF. I don't want to be sleeping next to a Wi-Fi router or outside of a 5G antenna. So if anything like that comes to mind, or if you know anybody who would have access to that, let me know. And that is it. Alrighty, guys. See ya.